Jill, can I ask you to say one? Yes.
Welcome everyone to the second annual PFI storytelling event. We're so glad you could join us. I know, 2 years, right? And in person this time. We're so glad you could join us. I hope you've enjoyed the conference so far. My name is Jill Bebout, and I have the privilege of introducing our farmer storytellers today. We've got a little business to deal with first. Safety first as always. Thank you all for being masked. If you took your mask off during lunch, please be sure to put it back on so we keep everyone safe. Number 2, there is an ongoing lost and found. If you have lost something or found something, please visit the registration area and they will divest you of or give you whatever you have misplaced. And finally, I would like everyone to please silence your cell phones so that our tellers and their tales aren't interrupted during this hour. So, to start, and probably most importantly, I lost Levi. Thank you, Levi. There he is. Thank you for getting us started today. The theme for today is the essential and connecting quality of water. Water is essential to sustain life. Our bodies are mostly water, and it's an integral part of both our daily lives and our rituals, big and small. Those of us who make our living by the soil and the weather and the water are inescapably linked to it, both by our life, our choice, and our obligations. Today's stories all revolve around the diverse relationships we have with water. To start us today, we have Levi Lyle. Levi and his family are from near Kyoto, where they have a diverse operation of organic corn, soybeans, and a wide variety of fruits. Levi used to work as an organic inspector, but has now transitioned and is consulting with farmers who are in the organic transition period. In addition to being a storyteller and a musician, Levi is incredibly talented. He's also a podcaster, a poet, and has written 2 books. Please welcome Levi Lyle.
When I moved back to the farm more than a decade ago, I resolved to find where I fit among a farmscape of industrial agriculture. I was observing more frequent gully washers, an expression for hard rain, and the beginning of a new normal for severe weather. The following experience unfolds during that process of trying to figure out how I fit onto the farm. Following a June hailstorm, that whipped and tattered the leaves of the corn. My father and I went out to the field to meet the crop insurance adjuster. Crop insurance works like this. If the severity of the bullet-sized holes in the corn result in yield loss, the insurance adjuster writes up a report and the farmer gets a check in the mail for the profits that he would have received. As the insurance adjuster pulled up in his car that day, he got out. What I noticed was that he was about my age, average-sized build, nothing particular, until he came walking across the road towards us. At that time, I saw he had a limp in his walk. During introductions, I recall two things. One, he had children about the same age as my children. And two, he was a veteran. We started out into the field. We came to the headland rows, and first we had to cross the perpendicular headland rows. He struggled to lift his leg up over that first row. He grimaced in discomfort. I thought to myself, oh boy, this is going to be uncomfortable for him. By the time we got to row 24, and there was nothing but the long, straight rows ahead of us, it would be much easier for him now. I sensed he was relieved. I was thinking to myself, is being a crop insurance adjuster really the right job for this person? So, it's then that I got up the nerve to ask, is your injury related to your military service? He told me a remarkable story that would help shift and shape the way I think of my place on the farm. He said, I was working for the state patrol, doing a routine traffic stop, writing a ticket, speeding ticket of all things, when I was struck by a passing by automobile. I was hurt badly, landing about 20 feet from the scene. A semi-truck driver passing by saw this as an opportunity to steal a state patrolman's handgun. He came over, and he was trying to pull the gun from my holster. I was fading in and out of consciousness, and I was in a struggle with him. Meanwhile, another passerby in his semi-truck saw what was happening, and he understood that a state patrolman's 40 millimeter is worth a lot of money on the black market. He came down from his big rig. He was 6'6" and 300 pounds. He came over and picked up that no good, fill in your expletive, up into the sky he went like a bird. I was relieved. I shattered my leg, but I would be okay. And the best part was, this angel of a man, my hero, came to see me in the hospital, and I got to thank him. By now, we were only a little ways out into the cornfield because we were walking slowly due to his disabled leg. I didn't know what to say. It didn't matter though, because he rolled right on to his next story. During basic training, after a 3-day sleep deprivation test, the sergeant called me into his office. He wanted me to apply to SEAL school. I turned to him, Navy SEAL? 1 year later, I was in Colombia doing undercover drug cartel intelligence. My job was to take down the bad guys or die trying. I was shot multiple times. We were a little further out into the cornfield now, and I was thinking, this man has suffered trauma. I had been a school guidance counselor previously, so I understood sometimes the best thing you can do is just to listen. Here we were, at the most beautiful place in the world, the middle of an Iowa cornfield in mid-June. The tranquility of the open space, the breeze whispering through the ears of corn. I knew it was my job at that moment just to listen. If there wouldn't have been any people out there in the field to hear his story, I'm sure he would have been telling his story anyway. He continued, I was wired. I got found out and things went very badly for me. I was shot in the neck, the hip, the shoulder. One in my belly just missed my spine. Navy SEALs carry plugs made of cotton. You push them into the wound and they expand. They are amazing because they get you back into the fight. By now, we were nearing a low area of the cornfield. I could hear water trickling from a nearby tile into the creek. This is where goalies notoriously fester in this field. Heaps of woven wire fences are in those goalies, reclaimed by the earth. I had spent my childhood tearing out those woven wire fences so we could farm fence row to fence row. Now in a tangle of sagebrush and birch that wound their way up through those rusty woven wire fences, up into the sky, into a canopy, songbirds were singing. These rolls of rusty woven wire fence plug wounds. And being an insurance adjuster was the perfect job for this person. I understand now where I fit on the farm. I see the farmland as the ancestral Mother Earth, Gaia. The importance of the lunar cycles, the changing of the seasons, protecting the land from those goalie washers. During the steady growth of corn all through the summer, like the unreprising care of a mother.
Thank you, Levi. And thank you for reminding us that wounds can be healed, but we first have to acknowledge them and then do the hard work to start the healing. Our next storyteller describes himself as a Laotian cowboy. Air Pilawon farms near Milo, raising a diversity of livestock and crops. Air immigrated to Iowa in 1984 and has been farming since 2010. His goal is to recreate a simple Laotian farm based on the lessons learned from his grandfather and showing history and farmer ingenuity. Please welcome Air, but be sure you get him to tell you about watering the Buddha.
Hello, everybody. Ooh, it's my first time here. I'm just scared. But anyway, I have a good story. My name's Air. I came from Laos. But I live here in Iowa, Milo, southeast of Des Moines. Anyway, I have a good time, good life, and enjoy everything here. These people, they need story from me. This story is from myself. Nobody told me. They need about the water. Oh, okay. Actually, my hometown is close to the Mekong River. So I can see the river every day, all year long. After winter, overseas, the river is go down, the dry out. By the time the sand beach come up, I remember I was around 10 years old, young boy, looking for good thing, funny thing to do all the time. And some morning, when I didn't have school, that means weekend. Actually, I go to school every day. I didn't miss school, if I don't have to. But some morning, or by weekend, I sit on the bench along the river. I look down the river, I see the sand beach. Hey, some good thing is come up and funny. Me and my friend get together, bring our soccer ball in the tube, and walk down to the river and swim across the little creek, something. go up there and have soccer game at the sand beach. Not very long, not very long. The other friend at Thailand border, they come down to the sand beach. So we play soccer together. This sand beach is the middle of the river between Laos and Thailand border. So every year we have good time over there when I was young. We play soccer, everything together. When we're getting tired, we come back home. Now, the time went by the March or April month, it's weather over there getting hotter, warmer, hotter every day. Oh, people find something to do to cool down. They start to throw water to each other, to put some perfume in the water, put some flower in the water, throw to each other all over the town. They call it Pilawon Lyle or Songkran. That means they throw water to each other to cool up, to cool down and have good time. And we believe that water, it flush out the bad thing or good or bad luck away from with the old year. And pray and wish for good thing for that person, for our friend, for whoever, family, even the Buddha. We throw the water to the Buddha statues to wish for some good thing, good luck for our life next year. Now, when the Songkran went by or Pilawon Lyle went by, if the water or rain doesn't come yet, it's still hot. Now, people start to make a firecracker. They believe they make a firecracker, shoot up to the sky, to asking for the rain from the God. By the May or June, they keep doing that. Not very long, the rain start to come down. When the rain starts to come down, I look at my grandpa's rice field. He has a big one. I didn't have anything, but my grandpa, he has big one. Hey, water come down, me and my friend, we start to get something, go to cut the bamboo cane for a fishing pole. When we get that, we go to catch some fish, try to get some fish. But when we didn't have luck, we didn't get any fish. We push each other down to the water for fun, and then walk home, grab everything and walk home. When we walk home, on the way home, we see the wild hawks come out. We try to catch them, riot. If we fell over the water, flood all over, so we don't get hurt much. But sometimes it still hurt my back. Anyway, few days, it's gone. I'm healthy. By the late June or July, now rain start to come down. Oh, I forgot one thing. When a firecracker, when they shoot it, if it don't go up to the sky, whoever make the firecracker, they pushing him to the muddy by the road, to punish him. That means he didn't do good job. But whoever make the firecracker go very high, he's good. So we hope we get more rain. We need a rain for the farmer. Now, by the late June or July, rain start to coming all over. Day and night, depend on whenever they feel want to come, they're coming. So all farmers so happy. By that time, all farmers in Laos, they get ready. They pack the tool, they get the tool, their water buffalo, all equipment for the farming. They start to do it. For me, we just hang around with them. I don't know how to say this good. But when we do this, all farmers, they start to do farm by late June, July, until August. They use a water buffalo as a big machine, as a tractor. Because we didn't have tractor, we didn't have John Deere, we didn't have big machine. They use the water buffalo to pull the plow, to turn up the soil, So for me, just have good time anyway. I'm 2 kids, they don't count any work for me. But thank you that they leave me alone. So I have more time, more good time. But by the water buffalo, so when everything done, the work in the field, water start to dry down. Now water run down, stay along with the river. When water come a lot, no more sand beach, and people done their farm. So by the time they get ready to harvest the rice, the sticky rice or rice whatever. So they have a water in the river a lot. Now people, they want to thank God for give them a water. So they make a canoe or long boat, racing canoe at the Mekong River. Not only in Laos border, but Thailand people, they come down to have fun together. So they call Bun Suang Hua. That means all people in the town, we thank God for give us water to farm, and then we believe in the river they have some dragon or big snake or something that people believe. That means thanks for bring us rain. Farmer can get food, can get crop each year. So it go over again. And I forgot one thing. When I went down to the sand beach, I brought my dog. His name is Lulu. He always follow me to the sand beach to play soccer. But sometimes, about one night, my dog didn't come home with me. They go to another side of Thailand. I wonder what happened with him. He might find a good family. He might find a new girlfriend, beautiful, something. I don't know. And then since then, I left. I come back home. I left home, and then I didn't see him no more. And sometimes I'm missing home. But anyway, I have good time over here. That's all my story. Thank you very much. Hope you guys have a good time.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing your childhood memories and your water adventures from halfway across the world. So the next time we're all in a drought, we're going to try that firecracker prayer thing. Who's in it? I'm there. Okay. When our next teller founded Miss Effie's Country Flowers and Garden Stuff in 2002, it was the first you-pick flower farm in Iowa. And if you've never been there, I'm here to tell you, it is a magical place of blooms, kittens, chickens, swoopy roofs. But the most magical thing of all is Miss F herself. Please welcome Kathy LaFrenz.
The author of Out of Africa, Karen Blixen, said, "The cure for everything is salt water. Sweat, tears, or the sea." Now, I live on the east coast of Iowa, so only thing I've got is a big muddy river. So my story is about sweat and tears. Meatloaf would have said 2 out of 3 ain't bad. In the summer of 2019, Lori and her daughter Betsy drove from Waukesha, Wisconsin to visit Miss Effie's. It was Betsy's 16th birthday, and only thing she wanted was a Quad City birthday party. She wanted Whitey's ice cream, she wanted Hungry Hobo sandwiches, and she wanted to visit Miss F's. Now, they had been regular customers at Miss F's in the past years. They would swing in the swoopy swing, they would chase my ducks, they would play with my kittens, and Lori would pick buckets full of flowers to take home. It was a great way for a mom to relax out in the country on a hot summer day. Betsy even had her 6th birthday party on the farm. Lori and her sister Michelle took my corn zebo, which is an old corn crib, and they filled it full of crepe paper flowers. They had vintage tablecloths, they had antique dishes. It was the perfect little girls' garden party. At the right time, the little girls go parading through my garden, all dressed up in their Sunday best, with great big hats full of flowers and ribbons, and they had a wonderful time. Except it was 98 degrees with humidity to match. The ice cream melted, the frosting got sticky on the cupcakes, and those little girls wilted like the flowers in my garden. But it must have been memorable because Betsy wanted to come back in 2019 to celebrate her 16th birthday. As she danced through the garden, she declared this was truly her happy place. My husband Cliff was working in the garden that day, actually prepping for a PFI field day out on the farm, and he was weeding and weeding and weeding. And she pranced past him and said, "Can I have my senior pictures taken here?" And he turned and he said, "Of course you can," because that's one of the things we do. Lori and Betsy filled their car full of ice cream, full of sub sandwiches, and buckets full of flowers and headed up to Wisconsin again, having had a wonderful day on the farm. Our lives, Cliff's and my life, was going to change drastically within just a couple of weeks. I awoke in the middle of the night to hear Cliff gasping for air, and I rushed him to the ER. We spent 4 days in the hospital, and they came back with, after several different diagnoses, they said, "No, this is pneumonia." And came home with pneumonia and a new apparatus for the garden, an oxygen tank. The next 3 months were spent at doctor's appointments, one after another after another. We went through the entire alphabet of tests, the CT scans, the MRIs, the PET scans, and the x-rays. And finally, 3.5 months later, we discovered that Cliff had lung cancer. He went downhill really, really fast. And we ended up at the University of Iowa Hospital. And on January 1st, the oncologist, it's her last day on the ward, she said, "We're going to throw a Hail Mary pass. Are you willing to try to catch it?" And we said yes. And they started an extremely aggressive form of chemotherapy that none of the other doctors thought was a good idea. Cliff did amazing. And on March 6th, we went in, had a CT scan, and the oncologist said, "The tumors are shrinking. The plaque-like cancer deposit on the lung is going away. You might be making a cure. This is looking really good." 12 days later, though, Cliff spiked a fever of 103, and I had to rush to Iowa City by ambulance. He had pneumonia again. And first we tried one antibiotic, and then another, and then another. 5 antibiotics later, nothing was working. They put him in palliative care, and then they announced that it was time for hospice. And when they tell you that the person that you love more than anything in the world is dying, you try to cram in every conversation that you plan for the next 20 years into those very few days. We talked about our goals, we talked about our memories, we talked about how much we loved each other, and we talked about the farm. Now, Cliff was my head groundskeeper. He was the man that took every silly idea I ever had and not only made it work, he made it better. And I was crying. And I said, I can't do this farm without you. And he said, you have to. There's a 16-year-old girl in Wisconsin that wants to have her senior pictures taken. Cliff died on April 2nd at the beginning of COVID. I was sent home, brokenhearted, to an empty house and quarantined because I had spent the last 15 days at the hospital and nobody knew what COVID was spreading and how it was going. So there was no funeral, there was no visitation, I couldn't even go to his burial. And I would say I felt alone. I was alone. But I was surrounded with the sweat of my community. Matt and Alyssa, flower farmers from Davenport, created spreadsheets of all of my gardens and had people sign up to clean my gardens. Rebecca, right here in the front row, took half of my chickens. Bob, my beekeeper, built a compost bin system for me and created the potting shed that was only in my husband's mind and built it for me. The Vegan Cookbook Club came out and planted all of my plugs and spread pallets full of mulch for me. John, Jim, and Doug, friends from our wine club, built the greenhouse for me. And when I said, why are you doing this for me? They said, we love Cliff as much as you do. I had ordered plugs for zinnias because I realized I wasn't going to be able to seed anything. And I got bumped out of the zinnia order that year. Now, you can't be a flower farmer in Iowa without having zinnias. And so I put a call out on Facebook and I said, hey, does anybody have any zinnias for me? 7 flower farmers bought trays of zinnias for me. I had every shape, every size, and every color of zinnia that is ever out there. It was fantastic. But there was one gal that knew I needed a kick in the ass to get out of bed every day. And my dear friend Connie that's here said, flowers will get you through this. But she had another problem. She sold to florists that year, and we all know there were no florist sales that year. She had flowers and no customers. I had customers but no flowers. So we went together and formed a loose partnership that we did bouquets together and sold them. We did a CSA together and sold them. We taught classes, and we've got some ideas for this year that are really cool. If we can get them off the ground. We don't have Cliff to make this work, but we will work on this. But I got by. I got through 2020. I got through 2021, and I'll get through 2022. And Betsy. You want to know about Betsy? On a very hot day in August, in 2021, Betsy came out and had her senior pictures taken on my farm. And there was salt water. Lots of salt water. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for sharing your tears, your heart, your happy place, and your story. Finally, sisters Carmen and Maya own and operate Sundog Farm and Local Harvest CSA near Solon. They have a diversified operation of vegetables, goats, and sheep. They're both very involved in PFI's Cooperators program, and Carmen is currently on the PFI board. Please welcome Carmen and Maya Black.
August 10th, 2020. It was hot, it was dry, and there was no sign of rain in the forecast. Carmen and I found ourselves standing on the side of the gravel road, staring down into the ditch where 3 or 4 of our own lambs had escaped their electronetting, crawled under a barbed wire fence, and were happily grazing in a patch of poison ivy.
Of course, it happened to be a Monday, and Mondays are some of our busiest days on the farm. It's the day that we deliver our community-supported agriculture shares, so we harvest a huge variety of vegetables, get them into the walk-in cooler as quickly as we can, get them organized, and deliver to the customers all in one day. So on this Monday, we left the rest of our crew harvesting vegetables after the neighbor called to go deal with these lambs. And the lambs not only were in the ditch, they were pretty far from a gate on either side. And so we decided that the fastest way to get them back where they needed to go was to herd them back through the hole they came out of and then crawl through the poison ivy underneath the fence and get them back into the electric netting. So we did that. I told Maya, I said, Maya, I am gonna have to shower before we go to the CSA delivery after this poison ivy. We get the lambs into the fence, we fix the Energizer, and we hop in the truck to go back to our farm.
And we thought that was the worst thing that was gonna happen to us that day.
So in the 5 minutes it took us to get back to the farm, we learned on the radio that there was a strong storm in Grinnell with winds up to 70 miles an hour headed towards us at 70 miles an hour.
It was going 70 down 80.
So we knew we had about an hour to prepare, so we get back to the farm. The rest of the crew had finished harvesting and we're just packing in our packing shed, getting everything organized for the delivery. So we jump into action to prepare for the storm. I jumped right on a tractor. We'd received a load of round bales a couple days before and I didn't want them to get rained on, so I'm moving round bales into the barn.
And I headed out to our 2 high tunnel greenhouses to try to close them down and prepare for this apparent storm that was heading our way. As I headed out to the greenhouses, I looked back to the west, and the sight of the dark wall cloud already racing towards us really kicked my butt into gear.
I had 2 bales left when the storm hit, and I could tell at the speed at which my eyes filled with dust that this was going to be worse than we had expected.
And I had almost finished wiggle wiring our high tunnels shut when the storm struck and blew my hat off my head. And I sheltered behind the high tunnel for a second, but I realized that I couldn't stay there hiding behind a building that may in fact blow away. So I took off and I hightailed it back to our packing shed.
Maya and I met in the packing shed where the rest of the crew furiously was trying to continue packing the CSA share. I was like, I think that we should stop. And then I realized that we'd forgotten the goats in a bad location in the storm. And so in our panic, all 4 of us ran back out into the storm to get the goats.
4 girls, 7 goats, 2 dogs, all desperately sprinting in a single file line into the wind and water. We ditched the goats in the barn and ran up to our house where we stood, dripping, in the living room, not the basement, watching the trees fall down just outside the window.
After the storm passed, we realized that there was no way we could get to town and deliver the CSA share, and we couldn't even communicate with anyone. We didn't know it at the time, but a cell phone tower had gone down. So we just set to work trying to make sure that our livestock was all okay. We had livestock in like 5 places, and we patched up some fences and just made sure that everyone would be okay for the night and hoped that the electricity would come back on in the morning.
Day 2.
I woke up and the still heat in my room let me know that the electricity had not come back on. And I also immediately realized that I had developed a really horrible case of poison ivy in my left armpit. from crawling under a fence in the ditch and forgetting to shower.
That morning, I attempted to grind the coffee beans for our critical morning coffee by putting them in a Ziploc bag and smashing them with a brick.
After drinking our weak coffee, we packed up all of the vegetables that we'd harvested the day before, and some friends an hour north of us had gotten their electricity back, so we were able to load up the trucks and bring all of our vegetables to a functional walk-in cooler. This was a little bit challenging with my armpit ivy, but I made it work. And on the way back, we stopped at the one gas station with gasoline, waited in a pretty long line, and to get gasoline to power a generator that our mom had.
So this generator was at our mom's house, which is about 5 miles down the road, and we thought it would be better to run the generator from our farm so that we could water all of our livestock, which were, distributed around. And so we loaded it up, brought it back to the farm, and quickly realized that we didn't have a critical adapter piece to hook it up to our own well pump. So we had to schlep it back to our mom's place, and we began the process of watering all of our livestock by using a 50-gallon drum in the back of our side-by-side utility vehicle.
And this wasn't all bad. We were driving around our neighborhood several times a day, and we ran into a lot of other neighbors driving around the neighborhood with buckets of water in the back of their trucks. And we hadn't seen people in a while because of COVID, and we were really busy, everything happening, so we caught up, and we were even able to charge our cell phones.
Day 3.
A friend called and had heard about the storm and was going to be passing through the area and asked if we needed anything. I was able to give him the exact adapter part that we needed, and after visiting 4 or 5 stores, he bought the last adapter in Kearney, Nebraska.
Day 4.
Our friend arrived with the adapter, and we called the neighbor who came right over, who's good at electricity, got the generator hardwired into the well pump, and we had water.
And over the past couple of days of talking to our neighbors on the road, we had developed a pretty good sense of a lot of other people that were having trouble producing water for their livestock. So we sent off some text messages and quickly became the neighborhood watering hole. It was also on day 4 that we realized that we could plug the coffee grinder into the generator while it was running and make a better pot of coffee.
It was really nice to have stronger coffee on this day because this was also our next CSA delivery day, and so we were able to harvest, pack, and deliver CSA shares without electricity or refrigeration, which was a real milestone for us.
Day 7. The power came back on.
And we still had a lot of work to do, but very slowly things started to go back to normal.
To be honest, we still have piles of wood sitting around from the derecho, and but ultimately we learned a couple of things. One, that our neighborhood community is actually a lot stronger altogether than any one of us is by ourselves, and that you really do get all the gossip when you're the neighborhood watering hole.
But probably most importantly, we learned that you should always shower after crawling through a ditch, even if you don't have electricity.
Thank you, ladies. I think you set the gold standard for maintaining a sense of humor under duress. But more importantly, show of hands, who all thinks we need to set up a collection to get these ladies a manual coffee grinder? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, that wraps up the spoken portion of our storytelling event today. Thank you all so much for joining us for our tales of farming and beyond. Before the slideshow starts, I want to take the opportunity to send a shout out to our storytelling coach, Mary Swander, who wasn't able to join us in person today, but we know she's watching the live stream, so thank you, Mary, for your great lessons. I also want to take the opportunity to thank Maggie Norton and the rest of the PFI staff who took all of the efforts of organizing this event and literally wrangling the cats. Thank you, PFI. I want to be sure to thank again Levi Lyle for adding his musical talents to our event today. And finally, I'd like us all to join in a final round of applause for our brave storytellers today. Thank you all.